you're still only making cables with knitting needles and you think it's impossible to crochet a cable, or if it is possible, you'd have to work in short, separate yarn segments with constant cut and tie breaks. Stay with me in this video and I'll show you that's not the case. This swatch right here was worked in one continuous piece, no cutting, completely with a crochet hook. Give it a like and let's start crocheting. Leave a comment below telling me where you'd use this stitch and this cable, and let's get started. I'll continue working the second cable directly on this swatch, but first a little theory. For this stitch pattern, you need a multiple of 6 stitches, plus 2 edge stitches. Here I have 48 stitches plus 2, so 50 stitches total in this swatch. So cast on a multiple of 6 plus 2. Inside the cable itself, across those 4 rows of the cable twist, the stitch count becomes a multiple of 8 plus 2. Don't panic. Yes, the stitch count increases here. That is completely intentional. Row 1, the first row of the cable. Make 1 turning chain and turn. From here, everything is worked as slip stitches with a yarn over. Make a yarn over, insert the hook into the second stitch from the hook. Draw up a loop. That's 1 slip stitch with yarn over. Insert into the next stitch, second slip stitch with yarn over. So I've made 2 slip stitches with yarn over. Now chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Along the bottom edge, count only 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert the hook into the 5th stitch. Yarn over, insert into that 5th stitch, and work 2 slip stitches with yarn over again. 1, and into the next stitch, 2. So remember the pattern. 2 slip stitches with yarn over, chain 6, but along the bottom you skip only 4 stitches. That means you're chaining 2 more than you're skipping below. Work this repeat to the end of the row. Chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip 4 along the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, insert hook, work 2 slip stitches with yarn over. 1 and 2. Continue to the end of the row. At the end of the row, as worked up to the last arch. Count 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert the hook into the 5th stitch, work 1 slip stitch. Then into the 6th stitch, work the 2nd slip stitch. That's it. Row 1 is complete. Row 2 of the same cable. 1 turning chain, turn. This row is simpler. Every stitch is a slip stitch with yarn over. Yarn over, insert the hook into the 2nd stitch from the hook, and work across. 1, 2. Along the chain 6 arches, work into the back loop in the same way. 3, 4. 1 stitch into every point to the end of the row. Notice how working slip stitches with yarn over leaves a neat braid visible on the right side. Work to the end of the row and meet me in the next one. Row 2 is done. 1 turning chain, turn. Look at what's formed. Arches, each anchored at 2 points. Now we begin rows 3 and 4, which are the actual crossing rows. Now, let's look at how row 3 is worked. I've made my turning chain and turned. Yarn over, insert into the 2nd stitch from the hook, and work 2 slip stitches with yarn over. 1, 2. So that means I've worked 2 slip stitches with yarn over. Then chain 2. 1, 2. Now fold your work toward you. Underneath that arch, there are 4 stitches that were left unworked in the previous row. Yarn over, insert the hook into the second of those 4 stitches, so the center 2. Work 2 slip stitches with yarn over. 1, 2. Then chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the repeat in row 3 is essentially the same as in row 1, but with one key difference. Here we make the crossing. This is where the cable twist happens. After chaining 6, you might be wondering, how exactly do we braid this cable? How does this even work? Here's what I do. I slip the loop off the hook and pass this chain through the arch, like this. And the working yarn needs to go to the right of the chain. Take your yarn ball and move it to the right. Just lay it over there and let it sit. Then put the hook back into the working loop. Now you can see the yarn is traveling through the stitch. It's running right through the fabric. That's completely normal. In row 3, we're threading the yarn through, and in row 4, if you follow everything correctly, we'll unthread it, and you'll end up with a finished cable just like this. Did you get the chain through the arch? Good. Now move on to the next arch. Fold the work again, like this. Find the 4 unworked stitches inside that arch. There they are. Insert the hook into the second stitch, the center 2. Work 2 slip stitches with yarn over. That's 1 slip stitch with yarn over into the next stitch in the same way, 2. Then chain 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull the loop out a bit bigger so it doesn't slip off while you're threading. Unwind a little working yarn for yourself. Here's the working loop, and I thread the chain through the arch again, like this. Now pay close attention here. When you make this spiral twist, you can go in either direction. Here I'm going to the right. You could also go to the left. The whole point of this yarn threading no-cut method is that it gives you the freedom to twist the cable either right or left. Just make sure that within one cable, you always dip through in the same direction. Don't let half the cable twist right and the other half twist left. Return the hook to the working loop. Take the yarn to the right again. It always goes to the right of the chain. And move to the next arch. If it seemed like this cable would be very difficult, I hope by now you don't think that anymore, and you can see, just like I can, that this cable is actually very easy to make. Work 2 slip stitches with yarn over into the 2 center stitches of the arch. Chain 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull up the loop. Slip the loop off the hook. Pass the chain through the arch. Return the loop to the hook. The yarn goes to the right. The yarn always goes to the right. This is the rule. If you don't do this, you won't be able to unthread it later. Move to the next arch. 1, 2. Again, chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thread through the arch. Yarn to the right. Next arch. 2 slip stitches, 1, 2, chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, thread the chain through the arch. The yarn doesn't pull through as easily at this point because it's traveling inside the fabric. Ease it through gently. Thread the chain through the arch again. Pull out the working yarn. Yarn over. 1, 2, and again, chain 6, thread through the arch, return the loop to the hook, ease out the yarn to work with. Next arch. 2 slip stitches with yarn over, 1 and 2. Chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, through the arch. One more arch left. I always keep an eye on the yarn, making sure it's going to the right. I've said this so many times, but it really is the most important thing. 2 slip stitches. Now for the end of the row. Chain 2, 1, 2, pull the yarn through, thread the chain through the arch again. And right here, work 2 slip stitches with yarn over into the last 2 stitches. Not into an arch, into the stitches of the previous row. First stitch, and here comes the second stitch. So into the last 2 stitches. 1, 2. I'll make 1 turning chain for the next row, just for convenience. And look, you can already see the cables starting to braid together. All that's left now is row 4. Row 4, I think you've already guessed, is slip stitches with yarn over. Same as row 2. 1 slip stitch with yarn over into every single stitch. The only difference is that working this row won't be as comfortable because all the fabric is a little tangled up from the threading. That's expected, and it's completely fine. Row 4. Turn the work. Now, as we work this row, we'll be unthreading our yarn. One turning chain, turn. Into every stitch, 1 slip stitch with yarn over. Yarn over, starting as always in the second stitch from the hook. Work. 1, 2, 3, 4. Work as long as it's comfortable. 5. When it gets awkward, slip your working loop through an arch to move to the next section. Pull out a little extra yarn, because you need yarn to work with. Return the loop to the hook, and now work from here. I'm always working along the same row. I never jump to a different row. And again, work as long as it's comfortable. Continue working. 1 more slip stitch with yarn over. When it gets awkward again, dip through the arch. Pull out the yarn again, and continue along row 3. Don't mix up which row you're on. If you accidentally jump to a different row, everything will tangle. The rows interweave with each other, but you always stitch along one and the same row. Yes, it's a little awkward here. The yarn is running through the fabric, and you have to ease it through carefully each time, but it is absolutely worth it. I hope the principle is clear. One slip stitch with yarn over into every stitch of the previous row. Work this way to the end of the row. Meet me there and I'll show you how to finish off the cable section, how to transition back into regular fabric, all the remaining tips and tricks. I'm almost done with row 4. Look, the yarn has come free. If your yarn is not free at this point, it means you made an error somewhere. You didn't follow something correctly. And I continue working slip stitches with yarn over all the way to the end of the row. One slip stitch with yarn over into every stitch. And here are the last 2 stitches. One turning chain, turn. Look at that. The cable is done. Now we need to work the finishing row. This is the row that locks the cable branches together. You can see it right here. This row is what joins the arms of the cable to each other. There are a few little secrets here too. It's not quite as simple as it looks. After this, you can move on to any other stitch pattern you like. I've made my turning chain. Turn, yarn over, work 2 slip stitches with yarn over. 1 and 2. Now I need to join to the next branch of the cable. Here's what I do. I make 1 chain, and I count just like I did at the very beginning. At the start, there were 1, 2, 3 points, 2 stitches that were worked, and 1 free stitch. And here too, I've worked 2 stitches as slip stitches with yarn over, plus 1 chain stitch, essentially a free stitch. Now I need to join to this next branch over here. I spread the fabric apart and count very carefully along this branch, not counting the turning chain. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, and here, 5th. I insert the hook into the 5th point, but first I put a yarn over on the hook and work slip stitches with yarn over. 1, slip stitch with yarn over, 2, and 1 chain. Now I need to join to the next branch. How do we count here? Remember the repeat was 6 plus 2 when we built this cable? So I look at the stitches that have already been used, and here's where the unused ones begin. There should be 6 of them. 1. It's a bit awkward to count here, but that's okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 counted. So this is the 7th. That's where I need to join. Yarn over, join with a slip stitch. 1, and into the next point, 2. And again, 1 chain, and continue the same way. Join to the next branch. But how I know exactly which stitch to join into? Everything needs to be even, everything needs to look tidy, everything needs to line up neatly. Again, I spread the work apart and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here's the 7th. Yarn over, join into the 7th stitch. 1 and 2. And 1 chain. And again, the next twist. Spread, count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Join into the 7th. 1 and 2. Work this way to the end of the row. Last twist remaining. Count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7th and 8th. Make 1 turning chain And to close out this row, work 2 more slip stitches with yarn over into the last 2 stitches, just the 2 last points. 1, 2. Make 1 turning chain. Look, that's row 5 complete. And now I strongly recommend you count every single stitch in this row. You should be back to your original cast on number. I have 50 because I cast on 50. In row 5, we return to the original stitch count. Now, row 6. In my pattern, this is slip stitches with yarn over again, but yours can be absolutely anything. I'm not insisting you follow this exact sequence. Yarn over, insert the hook into the next stitch, and work 1 slip stitch with yarn over into every stitch to the end of the row. You can use any stitch you want here. Regular double crochets, a lace pattern, single crochets, half double crochets, whatever you like. In my design, the cable itself is framed on both sides by what look like faux dreads, and with the second cable as well. With just one cable, there's a row of double crochets between them. Let me finish this row and show you the result. Here's the finished row. Look at that cable. Between the arms of the cable, you get these little openings. It's a very airy, very summery stitch. I'm not sure about winter items. Mittens or fingerless gloves would end up too open, but for sweaters, absolutely gorgeous. Now, the wrong side. Take a look. This stitch is not reversible. If you wanted to use it for a scarf, well, the cable is visible on the back, but you don't get that beautiful crisp braid. So keep that in mind. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this crochet as knit technique, I want to remind you, I have a whole playlist of these kinds of stitch patterns. Crochet that looks like knitting. I don't think you'll find this many of them gathered in one place anywhere else on the internet. And I also have great individual pattern videos that are 100% knit look crochet. So please, check the playlist, check the video description, check the end cards, all the useful links are there. Thank you for watching, thank you for your likes, thank you for writing comments, and subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.